This is a presentation on the Gestalt laws of psychology. The first law we're going to discuss is the law of figure ground perception. In this law, a person can view a certain shape and observe it as a certain image. However, when they look in between the shape at the shape's background, they can see a different image entirely. In our first example, if you look at the blue region, you can see two faces staring at each other. However, if you look at the white region in between the two faces, you may see a vase. The two separate images, one of the color and the other of the background with no color, is an example of figure ground perception because of the contrasting images on your screen. Here's another example. If you look at this closely, you may see a woman's face. However, if you look at the green area only, you may see a different image entirely. Now look back at the woman's right eye. If you look at the white region just under and above her right eye, you can start to see the details of her face. These details are not in green. They are of the white background, but these details can still allow you to determine that this image looks like the face of a woman, even though it is part of the background and does not have a color. Again, if you just simply look at the green area only, there is a possibility you may not see the face of the woman and will see a different image. This also is an example of figure ground perception. The next law we are going to be discussing is the law of closure. If you look at this image, you may see several black shapes on your screen. However, if you view them as a whole, you may see a soccer ball. This is a good example of the law of closure because even though there are no lines connecting each shape to make it a soccer ball, your brain may fill in that information and recognize it as such, a soccer ball. The image is not complete, but your mind closes the image and determines it as a soccer ball, thus being called the law of closure. The next law is called the law of continuity. Now look at the Google search engine on your screen. This may look like a normal search engine, but on the next slide, this is not a Google search engine you are accustomed to seeing. So why does this have to do with the law of continuity of Gestalt psychology? Stay tuned. If you see this red line on the right hand side of your screen, you can tell it is a straight line. It is a straight line here, as you can tell again, going straight vertical across your screen. This is why Google uses this search engine, so that your mind will see a straight, continuous line, and it will be more appealing and more natural for your mind to look at. Now look at the second example. Look at the red line across your screen. It is very jagged and indirect, causing your mind not to think about it in the most clear way possible. Again, this is the indirect line of the second example. These images are an example of the law of continuity of Gestalt psychology. Continuous flowing lines are easier for the mind to think about and understand clearly, whereas lines that are not are harder to understand clearly. Next is the law of similarity. Now on your screen, you see several dots. Now you may look and say there are two different sections. The right side, you have 6 blue dots going up and down and 2 blue dots going across. And on the left-hand side, you have 6 pink dots going up and down and 2 pink dots going across. Now this is the law of similarity, because why don't you look at this image as a whole and say 6 dots going up and down and 4 dots going across? Well, your mind doesn't think of it that way because it groups similar objects together. If you look at this image, you will naturally see the blue dots and the pink dots separate. This is the law of similarity, is your mind sees similar objects that are the same or almost nearly the same and groups them together. That is why you don't see this as one image, you see it as 2 separate. Now we will talk about the law of proximity. Now these shapes are all the same, but in the middle there is a larger gap than on either side. This larger gap in proximity, again, forces the mind to think about each line of dots, each two group of dots is different. You don't automatically think this as one group because in the middle, that gap is farther apart. The proximity is larger, thus being called the law of proximity. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoy.